I used to think that when two people say, "I do," it means something unbreakable. It meant a promise, a vow spoken not just to each other, but to the world, to ourselves, and to whatever bigger power you believe in. It was supposed to be a sacred agreement. That trust, once earned, was a fortress. A strong, thick-walled castle built brick by brick with shared secrets, quiet understandings, comforting routines, and countless small acts of loyalty and kindness. It was the safe place where you could truly be yourself, ugly parts and all, knowing you were loved and accepted. I believed that with every fiber of my being when I looked into Anna's eyes on our wedding day. I saw a future, a partnership, a lifelong adventure. I saw security. I saw us. Turns out, that fortress wasn't made of stone and steel. It was made of glass. Thin, fragile, decorative glass, painted to look strong. And mine shattered into a million tiny, sharp pieces, not with a bang, but with a whisper, in the most humiliating and heart-wrenching way possible. The sound it made as it crumbled was silent, but the echo inside me was deafening. It wasn't just a simple break, it was an implosion that took my entire sense of reality with it. It started subtly. So subtly that, looking back, I almost feel foolish for not seeing the early warnings, for brushing them off as normal bumps in a long-term relationship. But when you're deeply in love, when you trust someone completely, your mind automatically seeks innocent explanations. You give the benefit of the doubt, always. That's what love does. My wife, Anna, started being more distant. It wasn't like she suddenly hated me or stopped talking. It was a gradual fading, like a light bulb slowly losing its brightness. Fewer hugs when I came home from work. The quick, warm squeeze around my waist while I cooked dinner became less frequent, then stopped. Our evening talks, which used to be about our day, our dreams, our worries, slowly turned into short, surface-level exchanges. How was work? Fine. Yours? Okay. And that would be it. The comfortable silence we once shared, the one that meant we didn't need words to connect, transformed into an awkward, heavy quiet. It felt like we were roommates instead of soulmates. Her phone, always flipped face down on the table when we were together. At first, I didn't think much of it. Many people do that. Maybe she didn't want distractions. I saw it as a sign of respect, that she was present with me. But then it became a pattern. Always face down. Always within arm's reach, like a precious, secret object. If I accidentally touched it, even just to move it aside, she would flinch, a quick, almost imperceptible movement, but one that I started to notice. Her eyes would dart to the phone, then to me, a flicker of something I couldn't quite name, fear. Guilt. Annoyance. Work stress, she'd say when I'd ask if everything was alright, if she was okay, if we were okay. Her voice would have a weary edge, her shoulders slumped. Just a lot going on at the office, honey. Deadlines. My boss is riding my case. I believed her. I always believed her. Why wouldn't I? She was my wife. My partner. The person I had vowed to trust above all others. When someone you love tells you something, especially something that explains a shift in their behavior, you accept it. You want to help. You offer back rubs, make her favorite dinner, try to lighten her load. You try harder to be the supportive husband she needs during a tough time. That's what I did. I doubled down on being understanding, on giving her space, on not adding to her stress. The real stress, I now know, was her juggling her secret life with our shared one. Then one night, about 3 months into these changes, I woke up around 2 a.m. The house was quiet, the kind of deep quiet that only comes in the darkest hours before dawn. I'd woken up to use the bathroom, and as I turned over, I saw it. A soft, blue-white glow of her phone lighting up the dark side of the bed, where she lay next to me. Her back was to me, but I could see the curve of her shoulders, her head tilted slightly. And she was smiling. Not a tired, sleepy smile. Not a polite, distant smile. She was actually smiling, a soft, genuine, happy smile, the kind I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks, maybe months. A gentle, secretive, almost joyful smile. Her thumbs were moving quickly, rhythmically, tapping out a reply. My heart gave a strange little lurch. It wasn't a jealous lurch yet, more like a confused throb. Who would be texting her at 2 a.m.? And why was she so happy about it? I cleared my throat, feigning a sleepy stretch. Who's that? I asked, my voice thick with sleep, trying to sound as unconcerned as possible. My heart, however, had started to pick up its pace, a tiny drumbeat of unease in my chest. She jumped. A sharp, physical flinch, as if I'd startled her out of a deep dream. The phone, still glowing, was suddenly scooped up and flipped face down with a speed that was almost unnatural. Her entire body tensed. She turned to me, her eyes wide, a deer caught in headlights. "Just Sarah," she said, her voice a little too quick, a little too high-pitched. "We were just talking about a work thing." Her hand was still clamped around the phone, clutching it like a lifeline. Locking the phone faster than I've ever seen her do anything, her fingers fumbling slightly in her haste. My gut twisted. It was a cold, hard knot that tightened instantly. Sarah doesn't text at 2 a.m. Sarah, her colleague, was a cheerful, early-to-bed type. And Sarah had never, not once, made Anna smile like that. Never made her jump like a guilty child. Never made her lock her phone with such desperate urgency. That moment, the image of her smiling face lit by the phone, her panicked jump, her too quick lie, that was the first crack in the glass fortress of my trust. It was a small, almost invisible fracture, but it was there. And it spread from that moment on. I pretended to believe her, nodded, rolled over, and closed my eyes. But sleep didn't come. My mind, now hyper-aware, started replaying every distant look, every phone-down moment, every work stress excuse. A cold dread began to seep into my bones. For the next few days, I walked around in a fog. Anna continued her routine, oblivious, or perhaps uncaring, that I was now watching, truly watching, for the first time in our marriage. Every time her phone buzzed, I noticed. Every time she stepped out of the room to answer a call, I noticed. Every time she got a text and her lips curved into that secret smile, my gut tightened a little more. The dread had settled in, a constant, low hum beneath the surface of my daily life. It was a terrible feeling, living with suspicion, feeling like a detective in my own home, a place that should have been my sanctuary. The man I was, the man who trusted implicitly, was slowly being replaced by someone cautious, wary, and deeply, terribly hurt. I tried to tell myself I was overthinking it. That it was just work stress, just a friend, just an innocent explanation I hadn't thought of. But the evidence of my own eyes, the feeling in my gut, screamed otherwise. The fortress was shaking. The foundations were crumbling. A few days later, I couldn't take it anymore. The uncertainty, the nagging doubt, the feeling of being lied to, it was eating me alive. It was a Thursday morning. I was working from home that day, and Anna was getting ready for work. She usually took a long shower, a chance to unwind before her busy day. While she was in the shower, the sound of the water drumming against the tiles filling the silence of the apartment, a decision formed in my mind. It was a decision I never thought I would make, a line I never thought I would cross. Invading her privacy felt wrong, dirty even. But the alternative, living with this agonizing uncertainty, felt even worse. My peace of mind, my sanity, depended on knowing the truth, whatever it was. Her phone was on her bedside table, face down, as always. My hand trembled slightly as I reached for it. It felt heavy, like it held the weight of my entire future. I picked it up, turned it over. Her lock screen wallpaper showed a photo of us from our honeymoon, smiling, happy. A painful irony. My thumb hovered over the fingerprint sensor. She had set it up so I could unlock her phone, saying, "In case of emergency, honey." Now, this was an emergency. A different kind of emergency than she had imagined, perhaps, but an emergency nonetheless. My thumb pressed down. The phone unlocked instantly. And there it was. Right at the top of her messages. A message thread with Ethan. Ethan. Her ex. The one she swore she barely remembered from college. The one whose name had come up briefly when we first started dating, and she dismissed him as a silly, childish crush, ancient history. The one she laughed about, saying he was a bit of a loser back then. My blood ran cold. The cold dread in my gut transformed into a freezing, paralyzing terror. I opened the thread. The messages went back months. Not just a few weeks. Months. Almost exactly coinciding with when Anna started becoming distant, when the phone started facing down, when the work stress began. It wasn't an innocent chat. It was a full-blown conversation, a continuous stream of communication. Flirty jokes. Laughter emojis. Insider references that meant nothing to me but clearly meant a world to them. Late-night confessions. I miss how you used to make me feel. This one hit me like a physical blow. Miss how he made her feel. What about how I made her feel? Had I failed so utterly? Had our love become so stale that she needed to seek comfort, validation, feeling, from another man, her ex? Then worse. Much, much worse. My eyes scanned the screen, each word a venomous dart piercing my heart. My vision blurred, then sharpened, forcing me to read every agonizing detail. A text from the name Ethan, wish I could hold you again. Anna replied, you did last week. And I still can't stop thinking about it. The world spun. My chest collapsed. It wasn't just flirting. It wasn't just emotional infidelity. It was physical. It was real. It was happening. You did last week. The words echoed in my head, a horrific, mocking refrain. Last week. When was last week? I tried to remember. Was it the night she came home late, saying her work dinner ran long? Was it the weekend she went to visit her sister, claiming a girls' trip? My mind raced, trying to piece together the timeline of lies. I felt my chest literally collapse, like a house imploding from within. The air left my lungs. My body went cold, then hot, then cold again. I read every line, every emoji, every photo she had sent him, smiling selfies, casual shots of herself, sometimes even photos taken in our home. The betrayal dripped from each message like poison, seeping into every cell of my body, corrupting every memory, every shared moment, every touch we'd had. Our entire life together, our history, was being rewritten in these texts, tainted by her deceit. She wasn't working late. She was meeting him. At our favorite cafe, the one where we had our first date, where we celebrated anniversaries. In our car, the car we bought together, the car she drove every day, picking up groceries, running errands, living our life. In places that were sacred to us, places that now felt desecrated. I didn't yell. Didn't smash the phone. Didn't throw it against the wall, though every fiber of my being wanted to. I just sat there, on the edge of the bed, Anna's unlocked phone still in my trembling hands, the screen a window into the destruction of my life. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe properly. The world around me went completely silent, as if muffled by a thick, heavy blanket. The sound of the shower, which had been so loud moments before, faded into a distant hum. All I could hear was the frantic pounding of my own heart and the sickening thud of my shattered trust hitting rock bottom. A tear, hot and heavy, escaped my eye and traced a path down my cheek. It was a singular tear, not a sob, not an outburst. Just one single, monumental tear. It felt like the last piece of my innocence, falling away. I sat there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity but was probably only 10 minutes. Enough time for me to read through the entire thread, to confirm every sickening detail, to replay countless moments in my head, now seen through this new, horrifying lens of betrayal. My brain, usually sharp, felt dull and heavy. I was numb, yet every nerve ending was screaming. When the shower finally stopped, a jolt of adrenaline went through me. She would be out soon. I quickly put her phone back exactly where I found it, face down on the bedside table. My movements were automatic, mechanical. I moved to the living room, sat on the couch, and stared at nothing, trying to compose myself, trying to figure out what to say, how to say it. But there were no words. Only a gaping void where my heart used to be. She came out of the bathroom, wrapped in her towel, humming a little tune. She walked into the bedroom, oblivious, and then into the closet. I heard her dressing, the rustle of clothes, the clinking of jewelry. Each mundane sound was a cruel reminder of the normal life we had just moments ago, a life that was now utterly fake. Finally, she emerged, dressed for work, looking fresh and innocent, completely unaware of the bombshell that had just exploded in her absence. She walked into the living room, glanced at me, and offered a small, polite smile. "Morning, honey. Everything okay?" I looked at her. Really looked at her. Her eyes, her lips, the familiar curve of her smile. All of it now felt like a performance. The person I loved, the person I had married, felt like a stranger. My voice, when it came out, surprised me with its calmness, its utter lack of emotion. It was flat, lifeless. "Who's Ethan?" Her face drained of color. It happened instantly, visibly. The blood rushed from her cheeks, leaving them pale, almost translucent. Her eyes, which had been bright just a second ago, widened in a mixture of shock and dawning horror. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. She looked like a ghost. There was no need for further explanation. My calm question, the single name, was enough. She knew. She knew I knew. Then came the excuses. A torrent of them, tumbling out, rushed and desperate, like a dam breaking. Her voice was shaky, rising in pitch with each new, flimsy reason. "It was just texting, honey, I swear. Nothing serious." Then, as if realizing that wouldn't fly after what I'd obviously seen, she shifted gears. "I didn't mean for it to happen, it just happened." He was there, he was listening, her hands started to ring together, a nervous habit I knew well. She paced a small circle in front of me, unable to meet my gaze for long. Then came the blame. The classic deflection. "You've been distant lately, you know. You've been so wrapped up in work, I felt neglected." Funny. I was distant because I thought she was tired. Because I thought she was stressed. Because I was trying to give her space, to be understanding, to be a supportive husband during what I believed was a tough time for her. I was trying to help her. Meanwhile, she was filling that space not with communication, not with honesty, but with him. With Ethan. With another man's arms, another man's words, another man's affection. She had taken the space I lovingly created for her well-being and turned it into an opportunity for betrayal. She cried. The tears came thick and fast, streaming down her face, her shoulders shaking. She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, begging for forgiveness, repeating how sorry she was, how much she loved me, how it was a mistake. She pleaded with me, promising it would never happen again, swearing it was over, asking me to give her another chance. I didn't. Not a single tear. Something in me had died hours earlier, on that bed, staring at her phone. The tears, the raw emotion, the desperate pleas, they didn't touch me. They registered as sounds, as movements, but they didn't reach the core of me, which had become a cold, hard, empty space. The man who would have been devastated, who would have tried to comfort her even through his own pain, was gone. He had been murdered by her texts. I just sat there, watching her, a profound emptiness inside me. The fortress was gone. Nothing but rubble remained. And in the silence of that rubble, a new, colder resolve began to form. I didn't throw her out right away. That would have been too easy. Too quick. Too loud. Too emotional. And I was beyond emotion now. I was cold. Calculated. The raw pain had hardened into something else, a deep, quiet resolve for justice. Not anger, not rage, not a desire to hurt in the moment. It was a need to ensure the truth was known, and that the consequences of her actions would be felt, deeply and widely. My dignity, my sense of self, demanded it. I played along. For the next 3 weeks, I acted like things were fine. It was the hardest performance of my life. I pretended I believed her apology, her tearful promises. I hugged her when she initiated it, though every touch felt like sandpaper on raw skin. I nodded when she talked about us and rebuilding. I even told her, in a calm, measured voice, that we should try to rebuild trust, that it would be hard, but I was willing to work on it. The words felt like ash in my mouth, but I forced them out. I had to maintain the illusion. My plan needed time. What she didn't know was that while she was crying and begging for forgiveness, I was methodically, carefully, backing up everything. Every single text message. Every photo she'd sent to Ethan. Every time-stamped message, clearly showing the dates and times of their exchanges, of their meetings. I didn't just save screenshots, I used software to pull the entire conversation history, making sure it was irrefutable, undeniable. I saved it all to a secure cloud drive, and then to a separate USB stick, tucked away in my safe. I was building a case, not just for myself, but for the world. My evidence. My truth. I also did my research. Deep research. I found Ethan's social media profiles. It wasn't hard to find his girlfriend. Her profile was public. Her name was Chloe, and she looked happy, posting pictures with Ethan, gushing about their relationship. A fresh wave of disgust washed over me. This wasn't just about my wife. This was about a pattern of deceit, a shared betrayal by two people who clearly had no respect for the partners they were with. Chloe deserved to know. I also remembered Anna's excuses. Her work trips that were actually paid on the company card. She'd always been meticulous about her expenses, but a few times she'd been vague about details, or had unexpected receipts. Now it all made sense. These weren't work trips, they were rendezvous. Her company had a strict policy against misuse of company funds, especially for personal reasons, and especially for something as morally bankrupt as an affair. This was not just a personal betrayal, it was a professional one. With all the evidence gathered, meticulously organized, and ready to go, I waited for the perfect moment. I chose our anniversary dinner. Our 10th anniversary. 10 years of what I thought was unwavering love and commitment. 10 years of building a life together, only for her to systematically dismantle it behind my back. It felt like the perfect stage for the final act of this tragedy. I booked a table at the restaurant where we had our first anniversary dinner, a place with soft lighting, white tablecloths, and a quiet, intimate atmosphere. A place full of memories that would now be irrevocably tainted. I dressed carefully, a nice suit, looking composed, even elegant. I picked Anna up, and she looked beautiful, trying to appear hopeful, maybe even a little nervous, clearly thinking this was a step towards reconciliation. She even bought me a gift, a watch, engraved with our initials. I accepted it, the coldness inside me unwavering. We sat down at the table. We ordered drinks. I made small talk, about her day, about mine, about the wine list. She seemed to relax a little, perhaps thinking I was finally letting go, finally moving past the rough patch. Then, when the appetizers arrived, I excused myself to the restroom. On my way back, I stopped at the car, where I had a carefully prepared envelope waiting. Inside, I had printed out everything. Every single damning text message. Every photo. Every time-stamp. Every piece of irrefutable proof, laid out clearly, damningly. It was a thick stack of paper, a testament to months of deceit. I returned to the table. Anna was sipping her wine, a small smile on her face. I placed the thick, white envelope directly in front of her, between our plates, next to her anniversary gift to me. It was plain, no name, no address. Just a thick, innocent-looking envelope. She looked at it, then at me, a question in her eyes. "What's this, honey?" she asked, her voice light, curious. I didn't say anything. I just pushed it slightly closer to her. My gaze was steady, unblinking. I watched her carefully. Her curiosity turned to unease as she picked up the envelope, her fingers tracing the plain paper. She looked at me again, her smile fading, a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. Slowly, tentatively, she opened the flap. She pulled out the first few sheets. Her eyes scanned the printed words, and then her face crumpled. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes widened in pure, unadulterated horror. The color drained from her face again, even more completely this time. She started trembling, the paper shaking in her hands. Her mascara, which had been perfectly applied, started to run as tears welled up, but these were tears of shock and terror, not sorrow. She looked at the stack of paper, then back at me, her eyes pleading, disbelieving. "Why would you do this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, choked with despair. I leaned in, my voice low, calm, utterly devoid of warmth. "I didn't raise it. I didn't need to." Every word was a hammer blow. "Because you did." Then I stood up. I left the anniversary gift she gave me on the table, untouched. I left the expensive dinner, the half-eaten appetizer, the full glass of wine. I left her sitting there, alone, utterly exposed, with the undeniable proof of her betrayal laid out before her. I turned and walked out of the restaurant, not looking back. The fortress was gone. But I was walking away from the rubble, not trapped within it. My revenge wasn't just for her. The next morning, I made sure the other packages were sent. I sent the entire dossier of texts, photos, and time-stamped messages, anonymously, to Ethan's girlfriend, Chloe. A simple, plain envelope, dropped in the mail, with no return address. Just the unvarnished truth. She deserved to know the kind of man she was with. And I sent another, equally damning, package to Anna's boss, clearly outlining the misuse of company funds for her work trips that were actually for illicit rendezvous with her ex. I included a detailed breakdown of dates, correlating them with the text messages about her meetings with Ethan. It wasn't about being petty, it was about ensuring accountability for professional misconduct that directly resulted from her personal deceit. I knew the ripples this would cause. I intended for them to be tidal waves. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. It was a clean break, surprisingly quick, mostly because Anna didn't fight anything. She knew she had no ground to stand on. She was still reeling from the public exposure of her affair and the professional consequences. Her career, which had been on a fast track, suffered a severe setback. The company had launched an internal investigation, and while I never heard the full details, I knew she was disciplined, her reputation tarnished. The financial implications for her were significant. Ethan's girlfriend, Chloe, left him too. I heard through mutual acquaintances, who had, by now, heard snippets of the story from various sources, as scandals often spread, that it was a brutal breakup. She had been utterly blindsided and heartbroken, just like me. Ethan, who thought he was so clever, found himself alone, his relationship destroyed, and his own reputation among his friends and colleagues ruined. The casual betrayal he engaged in came back to bite him hard. Anna tried to call me a few times. Desperate, tearful messages on my voicemail, begging to talk, to explain, to apologize again. I never answered. She even showed up once at my new apartment, sobbing about mistakes, how she ruined everything, how she missed us. She looked haggard, her eyes red, a shadow of her former self. But all I could see was the look on her face when she got that envelope, the moment the lies caught up to her, the realization that her carefully constructed world of deceit had imploded. That image, burned into my mind, gave me no joy, but it gave me a strange sense of finality. It wasn't about vengeance anymore, not really. It was about standing up for myself, for the truth, for the sanctity of the vows she had so carelessly broken. It was about ensuring that such a profound betrayal did not go unacknowledged or unpunished. It was about consequences. Now. I'm not angry anymore. The searing rage, the gut-wrenching pain, the choking sadness, they have all faded, slowly, over time, like an old photograph bleaching in the sun. What's left is just, empty. A profound, echoing emptiness in the space where our life together used to be. The fortress is gone, and the ground where it once stood is barren. The trust one had is gone. Not just for Anna, but for others. It's hard to rebuild when you've seen how easily it can be shattered. I find myself more guarded, more cautious, always scanning for the subtle signs, the flipped phone, the distant look. It's a heavy burden, this new skepticism. But it's also a shield. I am Noah Williams and I'm rebuilding my own life, brick by brick. A new apartment, new routines, finding new meaning in old hobbies. It's a slow, painstaking process. There are days when the emptiness is overwhelming, when the memories, both good and bad, ambush me. But I keep moving forward. I lost a marriage, a future, a part of myself. But at least, for once, I was the one who left the table with my dignity intact. I didn't lash out in blind rage. I didn't beg. I didn't crumble publicly. I exposed the truth, held them accountable, and walked away with my head held high, carrying my shattered heart, but also carrying my truth. And that, in its own way, is a victory. The fortress of glass might have shattered, but from its shards, I am slowly building something stronger, something that, this time, I hope will last.